Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Let's go over the 9-game NBA slate for today on Draftkings. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out, really appreciate it. We got over 3,500 subs, which is pretty cool, and we also got over 500 followers on Twitter, which is also pretty cool. So thanks to you guys who contributed to that. Really do appreciate it. And if you're new, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Pennell16. And if you want to support me over on Patreon, I do a lot of extra work on over there. So if you want to help support me over on Patreon, hit the link in the description below. You get access to all my extra content. For example, if you want my NBA content, you get access to my entire NBA spreadsheet. It's got the data sheet on here that's all color-coded, nice and neat, so you know what's going on, what's good, what's bad. You get access to my projections, which I will update all the way up until lock, because you guys know how hectic news can get around lock. Also, my cheat sheet, my core plays, my DVP chart, and my Discord chat. And you can just bug me as much as you want there and ask me all the questions that you want. And also, NASCAR finally started. We had our first race today, or I guess it's yesterday now. It's 1 a.m. So I had the first race yesterday. That went very well. Had my article, spreadsheet, projections, all that good stuff. Love NASCAR DFS. So if you haven't already signed up for that already, I'd recommend doing just that, because I think you're getting a pretty good bang for your buck when it comes to NASCAR. We have actually 3 races this week, because we have Duel 1, Duel 2, and then the big race, Daytona 500. So I'd recommend checking it out. I really do enjoy NASCAR DFS, so check that out if you haven't already. And that's enough plugging. Let's get into today's video. So up top, we got LeBron. And again, if you're just new, this is my player pool as of right now, early in the morning. This is not a list of all the players on DraftKings. That would take like 4 hours to go over every single player. So I didn't pick I don't pick a small player pool, but I go down the list, and whoever I find a little bit interesting, I'll throw him in the player pool so that we can talk about him in this video. But the first guy I want to talk about is LeBron. He comes in at 10,900 in a really good spot versus Phoenix. Now, I will say he has not been playing that great recently. And I mean, I know he had that one good game, but I mean, other than that, he's not really been balling out for his price tag, and he's still pretty expensive here, but you know, I like the pace-up spot for the Lakers. Phoenix does play pretty fast, and they're also not that great defensively. As you can see, Lakers are 15th in pace-up play. Phoenix is 10th, so I always like getting guys in pace-up spots. Even though it's not substantial, it's still a pace-up spot nonetheless. If we head over to the DVP chart, Phoenix does rank 18th versus point guards, 22nd versus shooting guards, 16th versus small forwards. Whatever you want to call LeBron, he's pretty much every single position besides power forward and center, so either way you cut it up, it's going to be a good matchup for LeBron. I don't really care about matchups either way, and they really don't have anyone that can guard him. So LeBron, I think he should be able to eat here. He'd be my favorite. I shouldn't say he'd be my favorite spend up. I would probably say Anthony Davis is my favorite spend up, but I think LeBron's a close second. I mean, he can do pretty much everything he wants on the court, and when he's really motivated, you know, he can get that triple-double with, 70 fantasy points. This is what he can do. On the season, he's almost averaging 1. He's at 25 points per game, 10.8 assists, 7.7 boards. So got to have some interest in LeBron. I don't know if you're going to be able to spend all the way up for him. I mean, there is some decent value plays. If Giannis happens to be out, that opens up the slate quite a bit. But as of right now, I wouldn't say LeBron's a absolute necessity, but I do think he's a pretty solid play. Now, I'd rather play his team, or I forgot to mention his stats. So if you look at LeBron's numbers, 1.53 points per minute, 31.3% usage rate, nothing not to like there. So yes, you can certainly look LeBron's way. Now, I will say I do prefer Anthony Davis. He comes in 600 cheaper, and I just think this is a better spot for him individually, and the guy's got the same amount of upside as LeBron. He also comes in cheaper every single time. So what's not to like about AD? Guys been playing pretty well. And if you look at Phoenix, they struggle mightily versus big men. They rank 21st versus centers. Now, I know technically AD is a power forward, but he's pretty much a mix of both, and there's no one in the league that can really guard AD. So I know they're ranked 10th versus them, but I don't really care. But down low versus centers, they absolutely suck. And DeAndre Ayton's, he's just a very, very bad defender. Now, he's actually questionable to miss this game. Not sure if he's going to end up playing or not. So, I mean, I kind of hope he plays just because he's so bad defensively. But either way, Anthony Davis should be able to crush here on the season. He's got similar numbers to LeBron, just a little bit worse, but 1.45 points per minute, 29.1% usage rate. I will say the usage rate has gone down as the season's progressed. It used to be, I believe, about 31% with LeBron, but nothing like I'm going to be scared of. So Anthony Davis, he's a fine option, should play similar minutes, and he comes in a little bit cheaper. Really like the matchup for him, so AD certainly on my radar. Nikola Jokic, this is going to round it out for the top end tier. Now, he did not have the greatest game last time out. I forget exactly who he played. I want to say it wasn't Utah. That's when he went off. No, it was Phoenix, right? Yeah, versus Phoenix. And he didn't have the best game in the world, but I still got him for about 35 minutes here. And versus San Antonio. So San Antonio is really bad versus guards, but they're actually solid versus centers. But Jokic is kind of a different breed of a center. He's not your typical center. And we saw Hassan Whiteside have an absolute monster game versus the same Spurs team. There's also a pace-up spot for the Nuggets. They're 28th in pace of play, while the Spurs are 12th. So always like getting guys in pace-up spots. On the season, 1.44 points per minute, 27.7% usage rate. Got to have interest in Jokic. He's got triple-double upside just like LeBron every single night. He's a great passer, good rebounder, good scorer. So Jokic, you can certainly look his way if you got the salary. Nikola Vucevic, he comes in at 8,900. So Clint Capella is still not going to make his debut. So this pretty much just means Atlanta's still going to be pretty awful down low, like they are every single night. And we just saw Julius Randle have an absolute monster game. I forget his final stat line, but did he have 38 real-life points? I'm not sure if I read that correctly. It might have been 28, but he was having a really, really good game. I don't see why Nikola Vucevic can't do the same. He's going to play mid-30s minutes here. Now, I will say he's a little bit more expensive than I'd like for Nikola Vucevic. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I still think he's fine. This is a really elite matchup for the Orlando Magic. It's a big pace-up spot. Atlanta's 5th in pace-up play. The Magic are 29th, which is second to last on the season. He's been about 1.3 points per minute, 26.2% usage rate. Now, if we head over to the DVP chart, like I said, Atlanta is just so bad defensively. The worst defensive team in the league. They're ranked 24th versus centers. Yeah, I think he's just a pretty solid option. Now, they did upgrade getting Dwayne Dedmon, but yeah, I think, Vucevic, he's fine. He's going to be all right, so don't mind him. He's just a little bit more expensive, so he's more of a GPP play. I would not play Vucevic in cash games given that price tag. Kristaps Porzingis, I think I'd rather play Kristaps Porzingis over Vucevic, but the matchup is not great. I will say that. Utah is one of the stingiest teams in the league. They rank top 10. I believe they're 7th overall, if I'm reading this right off the top of my head, but they're actually one soft spot is down low versus centers. They do rank 13th versus centers, 6th versus power forwards. And we know Luke is going to be out, which means Kristaps is always in play. Besides that one game where, what happened? He got into foul trouble. Besides that one game, he really has not had a bad game with Luka missing. The guy's almost at 1.5 points per minute with Luka off the court and a 30% usage rate. And those numbers are all the way up from 1.22 points per minute with a 26% usage rate. So he just gets such a massive bump when Luka's off. The guy just absolutely smashes. I know the matchup's not great, but the matchup wasn't great versus the Pacers either. And he still dropped, 60? But was that the night he's dropped 64 fantasy points? Or was that? Might have been someone else, but yeah, either way, he's smashed. So the matchup really doesn't matter. Kristaps is an elite play, especially with Luka off, despite the tough matchup. It's a pace-down spot as well, but he's just been so good, so you got to have interest in Porzingis. Bam Adebayo, so I only have interest if Jimmy Butler misses. Because when Jimmy Butler misses, Bam's at close to 1.4 points per minute. Now, he's not been playing amazing with Butler missing, but the numbers would suggest he's a pretty good play. Going to play all the minutes he can handle. 8,200 is not a bad price tag either. And going up against Golden State, one of the worst defensive teams in the league, they rank 18th versus centers. So, like I said, when they traded Willie Cauley-Stein, I was figuring this number was going to keep dropping, and it has. They were around 15th, I believe. Now they're down to 18th. Wouldn't surprise me if they got to 20 sooner rather than later. But I like the spot for him. I think Bam's a pretty solid play. On the season, he's at 1.15 points per minute, so it's a pretty massive bump if you take Butler off the court. 20% usage rate. Now, I don't think he's going to be a 1.4 point per minute guy, but still, I think he's fine given the 8,200 price tag, and it's a really good spot versus Golden State. Devin Booker, I don't love the spot for Devin Booker, but I think he's fine in GPPs because if you're playing one of the Lakers studs, you have to hope the game stays close so they get the full minutes, because if they're not getting full minutes at those price tags, they're not going to be very good plays. So I think it would make sense to play like LeBron or Anthony Davis and run it back with Devin Booker, because that means Devin Booker's going to have a big game for these guys to get all their minutes. And we know Booker certainly has the capabilities of doing just that. He had a big game versus Houston. I want to say he almost had about 60 fantasy points, but the guy had a great game. Going to play all the minutes he can handle. And I will say the Lakers' one soft spot on defense is versus guards. They are elite down low. I mean, like elite of the elite. First versus power forwards, second versus centers. But if you look at guards, they rank 19th versus point guards and 13th versus shooting guards. So you can beat them with guards. And Devin Booker, he's got elite level talent. You can certainly look his way. And also, this game is the late game hammer. So always like getting late game exposure, especially with studs like LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Devin Booker. So I do think Booker's a pretty solid play. He's got about a 30% usage rate, 1.18 points per minute, averaging nearly 36 minutes per game. Devin Booker, you can certainly look his way. Now, I'm not sure if Jimmy Butler's going to end up playing or not. I do apologize for the coughing. I'm hoping it goes away soon. Might have to take a water break, actually. Just, give me a second. Okay, so Jimmy Butler, I do have him as of right now projected out because I do have him for 0 minutes. But if he ends up playing, 7,900 versus Golden State's not a bad price tag. We know they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. I believe they're bottom 4, right behind Washington. And they rank 28th versus small forwards, 26th versus shooting guards, so it's an elite matchup for Jimmy Butler. And anytime he's below 8K, I always got interest because the guy's got 50-point upside. He's actually got triple-double upside, too. He does a little bit of everything. On the year, he's averaging 20 points per game, 6.3 assists, and 6.8 rebounds. Also good in the steals department, 1.8 steals per game. So, Jimmy Butler, I think he'd be fine. Now, I don't know if he's going to be a full go or not, or if he's even going to play. So, you have to monitor the injury news. And if he's out, we could up some other guys like I said, Bam already, and Goran Dragic, and all those other kind of guys as well. So, Jimmy Butler, someone to keep your eye on for the news. Khris Middleton, I only have him listed here because Giannis is listed as questionable for a personal reason. I believe that's what it was. So, no idea if he's going to end up playing or not, but you guys know the drill. When Giannis is out, you play the rest of the Bucks because they're just so good on a point-per-minute basis when you take Giannis off the court. Giannis, he's got about a 40% usage rate, and he's at 1.9 points per minute. If you take a guy like that off the court, it opens up everything. So I have the numbers written down here somewhere, right here. So if you take Giannis off the court, Khris Middleton, we can look at his numbers right now. So on the season, he's at 1.26 points per minute with a 25% usage rate. Taking Giannis off the court, he's at 1.45 points per minute. 1.45 points per minute. That's better. That's the same exact as Anthony Davis. Just think about that. So you can get similar production as Anthony Davis at a price tag of $7,800. Also has above a 30% usage rate. So he'd become an elite play if Giannis happens to miss. It's not like he's overly expensive at above 8K. Now, do I wish he was in the 6K range? Of course, but we're not getting that lucky. So, still, I'd bite the bullet 7,900 and pull the trigger on Khris Middleton just because of how good he is without Giannis on the court. Going down a little bit, we have Andrew Wiggins. He had a pretty solid game in his Golden State Warrior debut. Ended up having, I believe, 43 fantasy points. Ended up playing pretty well. Now, I don't love the matchup here versus Miami, but if Jimmy Butler misses this game, it's going to soften up their defense, just overall, because he's one of the better defensive players in the NBA. And Wiggins, he's going to be running the show. They got rid of D'Lo, they got rid of Alec Burks, they got rid of Glenn Robinson, and that's their high usage players pretty much, and Alec Burks and D'Angelo Russell. And other than that, it's going to be the Wiggins show. He's playing along guys like Kai Bowman, Damian Lee. Those kind of guys, Jordan Poole. So it's going to be the Wiggins show. If anyone's doing anything on Golden State, most likely going to be him. Again, don't love the matchup, but if Jimmy Butler is out, that's going to help him a little bit. And also, this game does start at 10:30, so I always like getting late game exposure. So I'll always give guys that start late, I'll give them a little bit of bump. I know you probably shouldn't do that, but it's in my mind, I like having that late game exposure, bust or not, because it just gives me the potential for late game success. But Wiggins, he's fine. On the season, he's been about a point per minute guy, 1.09 points per minute, 28% usage rate. Obviously on a new team, so that's going to change, but I don't have enough data to base that off of. I believe in the last game he had a 26% usage rate, if I remember correctly. A little bit over a point per minute, so kind of similar production. Going down to Fred VanVleet. If Kyle Lowry happens to miss, gotta like Fred VanVleet. This is an elite matchup here versus Minnesota. If you take Kyle Lowry off the court, VanVleet's at about 1.2 points per minute, close to a 30% usage rate. Gotta have interest in the guy. Ended up having a pretty good game last time out. I believe that was versus Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. Ended up having over 40 fantasy points. Ended up playing very, very well. Still at a fair price tag at $7,600, so he'd be more than likely close to a core play for me if Lowry happens to miss. But I gotta love the spot versus Minnesota. They are third in pace of play, and the Raptors are 11th, so this game should be pretty fast paced. And VanVleet, we know he's going to play all the minutes he can handle. Over a point per minute on the season. That's just numbers with Kyle Lowry in. If we head over to the DVP chart, Minnesota, not a very good defensive team. They rank 27th versus shooting guards, 21st versus point guards. So love the spot for Fred VanVleet. You can certainly look his way. Christian Wood. Guy just continues to ball out. Like I said, sometimes you got to just cover up the name and look at the numbers. And if the numbers would suggest you should play this guy at this price tag, that's what you should do. So you should look past the name of Christian Wood. And, the guy is just very, very good fantasy basketball player. He's just putting up good game after good game. No Andre Drummond anymore. Now Markieff Morris is expected to be back, so maybe that hurts his minutes maybe just a tad. But, I don't think it's going to be anything too drastic, if any. And, I mean, Wood's just been absolutely awesome. He had that near 60-point fantasy game recently. Then he had over 40 points in the last game. And he's just been performing very well. And his numbers are just so strong with all those guys off the court, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, Luke Kennard, whatever. On the season, he's at 1.15 points per minute. You take those guys off the court, he's over 1.2 points per minute, over a 23% usage rate. And the guy's just been playing very, very well. I know he's pretty expensive at 7,200, but I'm all in again. I think he's a very, very strong play. I mean, I know 7,200 seems like a lot for a guy like Christian Wood, but I think we just got to get used to the new price tag. It wouldn't surprise me if this even keeps going up, because I think he's going to have a really good game versus Charlotte, one of the worst teams in the league versus big men. They rank 27 versus power forwards, 29th versus centers. So Christian Wood, I know he seems expensive, but I actually think he's one of the best plays on the entire slate. So I don't mind firing up Christian Wood again. He excelled in a really tough matchup versus the Oklahoma City Thunder last time out, so I don't see why he can't do it in a really soft matchup versus Charlotte. And especially if Derrick Rose is out. I forgot to mention him. If Derrick Rose is out, I mean, that just opens up some more usage and minutes for these kind of guys. So do you like Woods? Malcolm Brogdon, he's fine. He's pretty much probably going to get you 35 fantasy points. Probably not much more, probably not much less. Pretty safe play at 6,900. Good matchup versus Brooklyn. We know they do struggle versus point guards. They rank 25th versus the position, and they also struggle with big men, which doesn't pertain to Malcolm Brogdon, but that's just the two spots they're pretty soft on defense. Also, pace-up spot here for the Pacers. They rank 24th in pace of play, and Brooklyn is 6th. So I always like getting guys in pace-up spots. You guys know that. And on the season, 1.14 points per minute, about a 26% usage rate. He's a pretty safe, solid mid-range play. Eric Bledsoe, you'd have to absolutely fire this guy up if Giannis happens to miss. He's at a fair price tag of $6,800. And his numbers without Giannis are just absolutely insane. 33.5% usage rate, 1.5 points per minute. Those are better numbers than Khris Middleton. So I would like to play both, but Eric Bledsoe would definitely be the priority. And Sacramento has struggled versus guards this season, and we know Milwaukee plays fast, so they're always going to look to push the pace. And on the season, 1.17 points per minute, 24% usage rate. And like I said, when you take Giannis off, that shoots all the way up to 1.5 points per minute, a 33% usage rate. So certainly got to have some interest in Eric Bledsoe. He'd play mid-30s minutes. I think it'd be a smash play. In Sacramento, like I said, not very good versus guards. They rank 16th versus point guards, 23rd versus shooting guards. So certainly on my radar. And then we have Reggie Jackson. He comes in at 6,600. Kind of like Christian Wood. He's been having good game after good game. Not quite the ceiling that Christian Wood has had, but still, if D Rose happens to miss this game, if D Rose is in, I'm not going to play Reggie Jackson at this price tag. But if he's out and all the other guys are out, like I said, I mean, Drummond's traded and, Blake's not going to be playing, neither is Luke Kennard. But if you take all those guys off, Reggie Jackson's numbers are over 1.4 points per minute and about a 30% usage rate. Those are very, very strong numbers compared to his 1.1 point per minute, 27% usage rate. So certainly gets a bump with all those guys off. Again, you got to keep your eyes on the Derrick Rose news. I feel like he just won't play. I mean, I don't know. I just really don't have a good feeling of him playing in this game. If he does, you have to adjust, but I still think Reggie Jackson's a pretty solid play. And Charlotte, they're worse versus big men than they are versus guards, but nothing I'm too scared of. So certainly look Reggie Jackson's way. Serge Ibaka, so he started off the game really strong versus Brooklyn. Absolutely tailed off. Did absolutely nothing in the second half versus them. I don't even know if he scored a real life point. I know he got a couple of rebounds, but I'm not totally sure if he ended up actually scoring in the second half. But I like his chances to bounce back here versus Minnesota. Just it's a fast-paced matchup. I always like getting guys in pace-up spots, and with Marcus Gasol off, and if Kyle Lowry misses, he's over 1.2 points, or no, he's about 1.2 points per minute, and his usage rate goes up to about 25, 26, 27%. So slight boost there, and he's gonna play minutes close to 35. I mean, he got him for about 33 minutes here. And he's good on a point per minute basis. Pace-up spot versus Minnesota. They rank 15th versus centers, 18th versus power forward. So I do think Ibaka certainly in play. Derrick Rose, as of right now, I don't have him projected to play. But if he happens to play at 6,400 and is a full go, I don't mind that. Because if you take Drummond off the court, Blake Griffin, all those kind of guys, Derrick Rose's numbers are just absolutely insane. He's got about a 36% usage rate, 1.4-ish points per minute, which obviously at 6,400 I would take that, because if he's a full go, he'd play about 32 minutes. So you'd certainly have to have some interest in Derrick Rose. He's been very productive this season, but again, not totally sure if he's going to play, so I'm not going to go too in depth on that. Billy Itza, I always struggle trying to say his name. Bielitsa, is it Bjelica or is it Bjelica? I think it's Bjelica. That might make more sense. But he's been playing pretty well. I think he's had a couple of 35, 36-point games in a row, which is nice. And if Giannis is out, it's going to be a big bump to him because, he'd be in contention of seeing some Giannis defense, and that's never good. He'd probably get into foul trouble. Whenever I played this guy, he tends to get into some foul trouble. So he'd certainly probably get into some foul trouble if he's on Giannis by Giannis at all. But if Giannis is out, certainly got to upgrade him quite a bit. 6K, his price has coming up, but he has been playing pretty well. Been about a point per minute guy. Going to play minutes close to the mid-30s. And this is a big pace-up spot for Sacramento, so I always like getting guys in pace-up spots. On the season, 0.97 points per minute, 17% usage rate. You can certainly look his way. Goran Dragic, he had a pretty good game last night. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people take Sunday off for NBA DFS, so if you didn't see, Goran Dragic had a pretty solid game. And 5,900 versus Golden State, and if Jimmy Butler's out, you certainly got to look his way. He played close to 30 minutes. He's over a point per minute guy if you take Jimmy Butler off the court. I believe he's already at a point per minute already, 1.02 points per minute. The usage rate gets closer to 30. And Golden State, one of the worst teams in the league versus guards. They're ranked 27 versus point guards, 26 versus shooting guards. So Goran Dragic, if Jimmy Butler happens to miss, you can certainly look his way, especially with Tyler Hero being hurt as well. Brook Lopez, again, just another guy that would benefit if Giannis happens to miss. He's got about a 20% usage rate with him off the court and 0.94 points per minute. I will say he'd be my least favorite play of the bunch of all the Milwaukee Bucks we are going to talk about, just because 5,300 just seems like a right price for him, and he just kind of doesn't see too much of a bump with Giannis off. And going down, Miles Turner, he had a pretty good game last time out. They did raise his price a little bit to 5,100 because I believe he was in that 4K range last time. But good spot versus Brooklyn. We know they struggle versus big men and point guards, and Miles Turner is a center. And Brooklyn does rank 27 versus that position. It's going to be a pace-up spot for him on the year. Miles Turner's at 0.92 points per minute with a 17% usage rate. Not great numbers, but this is a pretty good price tag versus Brooklyn as a big man. Terrence Davis, he had a pretty darn good game last time out. I forget exactly what he ended with, but I know he was in the mid-30s if I remember correctly. He played very, very well. They raised his price tag to 4,800, but if Kyle Lowry missed, I still got to have some interest here. I believe his minutes are as with Lowry projected in as of right now, because if Lowry ends up missing, he'd play about all the minutes he can handle, and he's been over a point per minute with Lowry off the court, so certainly got to like that. Good matchup versus Minnesota. They struggle versus guards. A big pace-up spot here. I shouldn't say big pace-up spot for the Raptors, but this is going to be a fairly fast-paced game, which I always like that. Milwaukee is first in pace of play, so Terrence Davis would be a pretty solid play. On the season by himself, he's at 0.99 points per minute, so if you take Lowry off the court, that's only going to go up, so don't mind Terrence Davis. Jay Crowder, he had a pretty solid game for Miami. In my previous video, I said I wasn't sure if he's going to end up playing or not because I said he was questionable, but ended up playing back-to-back, but he should be good to go. Good matchup versus Golden State. Only 4,500. I don't mind it. Not going to go too in-depth because I don't love the play, but if you have like 4,500 left and you got to throw in a guy like Jay Crowder, I totally think that's fine. Dwayne Dedmon, so Clint Capella is still not going to make his debut. He's still dealing with that heel issue. So Dwayne Dedmon's going to be the starting center here for the Atlanta Hawks and should play close to 30 minutes. He's actually had 3 pretty good games in a row. Not all with Atlanta, but still nice that he had 3 games in a row. Good games in a row, I should say. 4,400, not a bad price tag. Now, the matchup versus Orlando, it's pretty sucky. They're a very good defensive team. They also play pretty slow. They rank 4th versus center, so the matchup is not great. But, it's going to be a pace-up spot, which I do like. And on the season, he's at 0.86 points per minute. I think he's fine. I think he can get you close to 30 fantasy points, if not more. Thon Maker. So, in the first half of the last game, it looked like he was going to go break the slate again. I believe he had I want to say he had the first quarter, he ended with 11 points. Second quarter, he ended with 16 or 17. Then he ended up finishing the game with 19. He just did really not do much at all in the second half. And then Markieff Morris is listed as probable for this game, so that'll cut into his minutes at least a little bit. But still got him for about 25 here, and he's been a point per minute guy if you take Drummond, Griffin, all those guys off the court. So, yeah, I'll take it at this price tag. It's not too bad, so you can certainly look his way. And, whoops. Lost my spot. And versus Charlotte, like I said, they're one of the worst teams down low versus big men. 29th versus centers, 24th versus power forwards. I had to double check that. Or 27 versus power forwards. So, yeah, love the matchup for Thon Maker. Victor Oladipo, he's just a little bit too cheaper at 4,200. I actually think he's a pretty solid value play. He's actually been playing okay the past couple of games. He started off a little rough, was not finding a shot. Starting to get a little bit better here. Got his minutes limit increased to 28 recently, so 4,200. I don't mind that. We know Victor Oladipo's got plenty of upside, and it's a good spot versus Brooklyn. They do struggle versus guards, and also a pretty big pace-up spot here for the Pacers. And on the season so far, it's a small sample size, but he's got a 29% usage rate when he's on the court. Only at 0.76 points per minute, but again, guys, small sample size. That's going to get better as the season goes on. So you can certainly look his way. I think he's fine. Dante DiVincenzo, so I already have interest in him just because George Hill is listed as out, so he'd already get an increase in minutes. Got him for about 26 minutes here, and he's at 0.97 points per minute, so he's already a pretty good value play in my opinion, and Sacramento does struggle with guards. But if you take Giannis off the court and George Hill, DiVincenzo's 1.04 points per minute. The usage rate goes over 20%, so I think he'd be one of the best value plays on the entire slate. And as of right now, I still think he's a good value play, so definitely be a very strong play if Giannis happens to miss. Juancho Hernan-Gomez, 3,600. He played about 27 minutes in the last game. Don't love the matchup by any means here, but if you're going to play this many minutes at this price tag, you're going to have some interest because I do think he can squeak out 20 fantasy points for us. On the season, though, he's had a terrible 0.67 points per minute, 14% usage rate. Obviously on a new team now because he's only averaging 12 minutes per game. Got him projected for about 28 here. I mean, he's fine. If you need the salary relief, it's totally fine. But I'm just kind of hoping Giannis is out because then we can play Ersan Ilyasova at 3,200. I mean, that would just open up the entire slate. If you have a guy that's 3,200 and we know he's going to ball out with Giannis missing, pretty much just opens up the entire slate. We could easily fit in a guy like LeBron or Anthony Davis. So if Giannis is out, Ersan just becomes an absolute lock. On the season with Giannis off the court, he's at 1.18 points per minute. He's going to play about 25 minutes, maybe a little bit more if Giannis happens to miss. And if you're giving me that at this price tag, and if you're giving me that point per minute rate at this price tag in mid-20s minutes, I will take it all day. So Ersan Ilyasova certainly on my radar. And that's going to be it for the player-by-player breakdown. That felt pretty long. But before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the sponsor, OverlayDFS.com. All right, guys, if you've been watching my videos for the past couple of weeks, you already know what this is. But if you're new to the channel, this is the sponsor, OverlayDFS.com. Very fun website to play DFS on. It's more based for the casual user. You don't have to worry about sharks here like Chipotle, EM2, Papa Gates, whatever. You don't have to worry about those kind of guys. It's just there's no salary cap restrictions. It's a pick 'em based website. It's as easy as it sounds. You pick whoever you think's going to score the most points. This was from a couple of nights ago. If you thought Hassan Whiteside was going to outscore Clint Capella, you picked Whiteside. If you thought Sabonis was going to outscore Gobert, you picked Sabonis. It's as simple as that. And if your guy happens to outscore the other guy, you win that matchup. And if you finish top 10% on the contest, you win 9 extra money. So, for example, this was a $22 double deuce contest, and if you happen to place in the top 10%, you win $180. It's as simple as that. And they also have their progressive jackpot, which is getting close to $10,000. And trust me, you do not want to miss out on the chance to win about $10,000, and they pay you out quick. I'm talking I've withdrawn around 1 to 2 a.m. before in my actual bank account, not just the account balance, my bank account balance by like 3 to 4 a.m. They pay you out quick, which I do like. It's a legit website. Would not recommend this to you guys if I didn't play there myself. It's fun to sweat the games out on here. You're always in it till the end. And so check it out, guys. I don't have a sponsor, like a code or anything, promo code, I should say. And I'm not going to link the website in the description below because I don't want to get my channel banned on YouTube for like a week or so. So check it out, guys. OverlayDFS.com. It's as easy as it sounds. And I recommend checking it out. They're also running a Slump Buster Challenge where if you happen to lose 20 days in a row, not consecutive days, but say you play once a week for 20 weeks in a row and you lose every single day, they will refund every single dollar that you deposited. So they're pretty much daring you guys to lose. So check it out, guys. You'll see me in the contest. I want that 12-0, $10,000. I really, really want it. So you guys are going to have to beat me to get to it. So if you want to go compete for it, check it out, guys. OverlayDFS.com. That's going to be it for this video. If it was helpful, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Pennell16. Support me over on Patreon for any of my extra content. My Discord chat, you can talk to me all day. Sign up for the NASCAR package. I'm very excited for that. It was a great, I guess you could call it week 1, the Clash. So check it out. Even if you don't know anything about NASCAR, I do write an article. I go over strategy and everything. So I'll pretty much guide you to it. We've had a couple of guys that probably couldn't name one driver in NASCAR. They'd played they played NASCAR this week using the package. They ended up doing very well. So check it out, guys. That's going to be it for this video. Enjoy your Monday. I know that's hard to do. I'm going to get about 5 hours of sleep, so that's going to suck, but hey, I'll live. So see you guys in the next video, and enjoy your day.